Well, we've got another rain day in the shop today. Jared's finishing up this 8320. He's got the exhaust pipe back on there. We had this running last night. He's just got some small things to button up on it. And then he's got to put it on a manure pump or something to kind of break it in. We are hoping to maybe do some heavy duty tillage work with it to break it in appropriately, but with the way the weather is, and we kind of want to work at this for a little while here, and then what we want to do is start working on getting the hood on it. Another thing we're working on is this Freightliner truck. We've got to swap out a hydraulic valve for the tailgate. It's got commercial number 35s on there, and there's something wrong with the hydraulic valve there. And then last summer when we were hauling, I think it was second cutting, it blew this front right tire and ended up taking the inner fender out. And Tim ended up getting one of these. I forget where he got it from. Maybe there's a name on Vanderhoogs. So we're gonna get that on there too. Kind of throws garbage everywhere when without that fender there. So we ended up doing a bunch of work to this over the winter. We ended up putting all new brakes on it, an exhaust system, and I just never got around to doing that hydraulic valve. So we're gonna get that done here today. All right, these valves, I've got this apart. Now we just need to clean some of this stuff up. But they are in individual sections, and you can stack these together. So this is the hoist valve here, which we don't have a problem with that one. We have a problem with the tailgate valve. So we've got the air cylinder that's on the back, and I think all that has come unhooked on that is the actual air cylinder itself. I think that's all that's wrong with it. So we're going to take the air cylinder off and look to see what's going on with the spool, which is this part here. And the oil comes in through from the one end from the hydraulic pump. It's delivered through the center here, and then depending on which way you run the spool, it delivers oil to either port 1 or port 2. If this valve doesn't call for any oil, the oil just keeps on coming through the valve, goes through the outlet cover here, which is right here, and then this gets returned back to tank. So this one here is a Power Beyond hydraulic cover. In other words, we have full hydraulic pressure coming out of this port, which we're returning to tank as well. Some of these valve assemblies that I've bought in the past, I've bought them with Power Beyond so that we can power another function. Most generally, what these outlet covers are is just an outlet for the oil as it's passing through the actual valve system itself, and you have to return it back to tank. You can't run full hydraulic pressure off of it. So we've got some cleanup to do. We've got to dissect the valve that's on the bench here. All right, what it looks like has happened to this, and I hope it's all that there is. It's pretty simple here. This is the spool itself, and then this is a little air cylinder. This acts just like a little piston, and on the end of this air cylinder there's a little, I think it's 5/16 or 3/8 stud, and what that does is it screws into the end of the actual spool itself. That has just loosened up, and when that loosened up, this tailgate valve would wander outward, and when it would do that, it would bypass the oil to the tailgate. It wouldn't allow the oil to go to the hoist function, so that's the problem that we were having with it. So we're just going to put some Loctite on this stud here, run this spool back through this valve. We've got everything somewhat cleaned up. We need to clean things up a little more. And then this little air cylinder that just bolts on the end of the actual valve body, the work section itself. Now, in order to tighten that bolt, you remove the air fitting out of the back of it, and then you can reach down in with an Allen socket to tighten it. I have a spare valve here, and this has got the spring return cup on there. If you weren't using an air cylinder, you would need that spring return end on there, and what that would do is return the valve to neutral. We also run a handle kit on the valve itself. If you were to run a cable control, you would take this unit off here, put your cable control on to run this with cables, but we don't run any of these valve sections with cables. We're running them all with pneumatic shift cylinders, and then we've either got pneumatic levers in the cab or the little pneumatic toggle switches, which we use a couple of different style ones, and I can show you what those look like. And they're just I've got them here somewhere. Here's one right here. I get them from buyers, and what they are is a pneumatic toggle switch. This one is detented. It will hold itself in either position, and you just spring return. Somewhere here I have some of them that are non-detented. This one is a non-detendable one. In other words, it will spring return to neutral. So we use these on all the functions for the Husky tanks, and these valve sections here, like I was saying before, you can stack them. You could put 20 valves in a row if you want. We have as many as 6 on some of the trucks. This truck, we don't run the Husky tank, so we've only got 2 valves. We've got one for the hoist and one section for the tailgate. So we'll go ahead and get this back together, get it on the truck, try it, make sure it's gonna stay together. Again, I'm gonna put some Loctite on here so that this doesn't loosen up again.
Oh, that is so goofy. Fuck, do you think Alex is still on the Napa? I don't want to put a grill boom clamp on it.
I don't know.
Did you order any mud flaps for the 900?
No.
Some Rainies or something, some small ones, cheap ones. Or maybe just get them right from Penworth. I don't think we got any skinny ones like that left around.
All right, we've got this work section back together. Now we're just gonna bolt it in place. I've got a little cleanup to do here, and then we can put these work sections back together. All right, we've got everything back together. Now we've got the oil turned on from the oil reservoir. I ended up putting a new filter on there. Got everything back together. Now we're gonna go ahead and try it. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to run it with the manual hand control. So this is the tailgate function here. That's working. On. Spring return to neutral. In is down. There's down. Spring return to neutral. Now we'll power the hoist. Spring return to neutral, go down, spring return to neutral. Now we'll go ahead and we'll try the air controls. So we got a console in here. This is the box. I don't know if you can see that. So we got the box control here and the tailgate. First I'll hit the tailgate. That goes up. There's down, up with the box, down, off with the PTO. All right, we've got that project done. I was glad that worked, because if it didn't work, I'd be working in hydraulic oil, because we had this system drained, and I didn't get hardly any oil on the floor or anything here. Usually when you're working on that stuff, you're just in hydraulic oil all day. So I'll show you what Tim's got going on with his project with the fender here. He's got the fender all on there. It's a nice green. For character purposes, we're going to leave it green for now. This fender here was not designed to have a fender flare on it, so we ended up trimming this side off here, and he's got that looking pretty good. I don't know if we have the fender flare for that or not, but we've got to get that on there. We've either got the fender flare for the fender piece, or we have it for the hood here. So we'll get that on there, and then we have to get our little bumper extension put back on there as well. Again, we blew a tire this summer, and when the tire blew, it ripped the inner fender out, and it actually ripped that bumper extension off of there as well. So this is not in the greatest shape. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to salvage that or not. And I don't think that stuff was available anymore either, was it?
I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Get 'em.
So the fender itself, I'm not even sure if we were able to get it It just sounded like it was going to be a long time. And Tim got on the internet, and it was like a week later this Fender showed up, and that was probably back in January. So
$50, new one $560.
yeah. So you've probably seen this green Fender hanging around in about every video because we've just been moving it from one spot of the shop to the other here. But we also have a step that we need to get put on over the top of the air tanks here. It ended up blowing both of these steps off, and I'm just going to take a piece of channel iron or something and put that on there so we can get a passenger in and out of this door here. But you would not believe how much crap that tire would throw down the side of the truck just by not having that fender on there. So Jared is waiting for a few items to show up for this 8320, and then he is going to run it. He's got everything all put back together here. He even pulled the pipe off, the exhaust pipe off in there, and he put one of them 8-inch stacks on there for video purposes that came off of the W9. He's got a couple of overflow hoses to put on, but other than that, maybe in the next clip or two here, we'll be running this. We need to put a load on it to properly break it in, and he's going to put it on a manure pump just to run it and get things to set and make sure we haven't got any leaks or anything. We do have a new hood to put on this as well. The hood was like $5 grand, but these 8000 series hoods, mainly the 20s and some of the 30s, were known to fatigue crack, and that's the problem that we had run into with this hood. We ended up putting some aluminum plating on to kind of stretch it along to get it to last a little longer, but it finally got to the point where there wasn't much holding this front part of the hood on, and it was eventually going to just fall off. So we've got that in behind the shop here. The new one is still in the crate. I don't even know if it has decals on it. It was supposed to be a loaded hood. I'm hoping it's got the headlights and the light bezel and the grill and all that crap already on it. It might even have the decals as well. But if it doesn't, we'll have to get a decal kit for it. So in a little bit here, we'll be running this here. And hopefully it doesn't have any dumb little coolant leaks or anything like that, because you run into them kind of things when you put everything else back together like this. So we'll join back up with you in a few minutes here once we get the rest of the hoses and whatever, and then we're gonna run it. Alright, Jared's had it on the manure pump here for a good 15 minutes or so, just to break it in, and so far so good. We'll see how it's doing. Well, we left the shop a little while ago, and luckily it's not raining anymore, but I'm heading out to Central Equipment now. Their place is just up here. I've got to get another fertilizer tank. Last year when I was out here, this same guy was working right along the road here, so I don't know who exactly works this land here, but he was working with an excavator right alongside the road. This is some muck ground here, and they flood the fields and then they let everything. I guess I really don't know what they do here, but usually these fields are underwater and then they let the water go. So we're gonna get a 6,000 gallon tank from these guys here. We've got another liquid product that we're going to be using, and I need an additional tank, so we're going to run into the office, see where we have to be, and we'll get things loaded up here. Alright, they still have a pretty good supply of tanks out here. We're all strapped down, and we'll go ahead and get the other items that we need, and we're going to head on out of here. Well, this is the approved site for that yellow tank. What we're going to do is we're going to lay these rubber mats down. These are, or this is just remnant pieces of the rubber that we have in the barn for the cows to stand on. And that's what we have underneath these other tanks here. And that just, I don't know, I worried through the years, or you know, years ago when we put these tanks in, I worried about it setting on sharp stones. So we had to do a little shimming up right there, and we just brought some crusher stone in, crusher run, and this is all completely level here. Now we're just gonna lay these pieces down and bring this tank over and stand it up. All right, we've got our rubber mat all laid down. This is where we're gonna set that tank. Now it's kind of humped up and whatever, but that's just because this rubber was kind of folded over on itself, so it hasn't taken a good flat shape, or hasn't taken and laid down yet. But once we set the tank on here, that'll squish that down. That's just gonna keep stones from penetrating the bottom of the tank, whether you get a little pebble, and after time that tank sitting on it might rupture it. Although them tanks are pretty thick, they're like that thick. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that trailer up and get it unloaded, set the tank into place.
Right there.
All right, we have this all setting in place. The tank was a lot heavier than I thought it was gonna be, to be honest with you. And but it went in here real easy. Once we got it set down, we were able to shimmy it over. Now what we're gonna have to do is get the bung opened up. I'm gonna have to get my fittings on there that I need, and then I'm gonna put a hose going in the top too, so that we can kind of agitate this one just like we do with those ones there. So got it all setting on the rubber good. We're able to get it on there without having any dirt or anything get underneath it, so that's gonna work good, and we didn't have any casualties unloading it. So that is gonna do it for this video, folks. Tomorrow I'm gonna put the fittings on there. Like I said, I'm actually gonna move the product that's in that tank over to this one, and then this tank here is gonna have one product in it. Those two tanks there are gonna have another product, and then we've got a third product in those two tanks there. So that is gonna do it, folks. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.